folks, how's it going? So last week I posted a video about are lockdowns really going to come back? Maybe. I want to talk about that again because there's been some changes, and I have to reevaluate my position on that. An article came out on Friday from Fox News, and it came out from other sources as well, but President Biden said Friday he plans to request additional funding from Congress for the development of a new COVID-19 vaccine, adding he may require everyone to take it, whether they previously received a vaccine or not. All right, so um, just to be clear, because of the new variants that are coming out and the massive surge in new cases, which I believe at my last count numbered around 9 in the United States, uh, Biden is calling for new funding for a new vaccine that works for the new variants. Uh, okay, so does that mean that they're admitting that the old vaccines don't work? Uh, in my mind, if you had to get a vaccine and then had to follow it up with 5 or 6 boosters, then it didn't really work. Uh, not to even get into the health problems that people reported having after getting the vaccine. So, in my mind, the original vaccine didn't even work because you had to get the vaccine and then multiple boosters. Now, to quote him, Biden, who was vacationing in the Lake Tahoe area, was asked by a reporter on Friday if he could say anything about the uptick of COVID cases and the new variant. If I'm not mistaken, the research I've done, there have been about 9,000 new cases of COVID. Only about 9 of them are the new variant. So they're calling that the uptick. Yes, I can, the president said, quote, I signed off this morning on a proposal we have to present to Congress a request for additional funding for a new vaccine that is necessary, that works. Again, does that mean he's admitting that the first vaccine doesn't work? I mean, they said it worked all along, and then all of a sudden you had to get boosters for it to be effective, but the vaccine still worked. But if it worked, why did you need the boosters? Anyway, going on. He added, tentatively, it's recommended that we will likely be recommending everybody get it, no matter whether they've gotten it before or not. Okay, are they going to pass another one of their mandates? I would say most likely. This is not maybe anymore. I'm going to revise my statement from my previous video. I said lockdowns may be coming back. I'm revising that from maybe to most likely. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is coming again. People are already talking about it. A $40 million funding request to Congress from the White House on August 11th did not mention coronavirus money, but included money for Ukraine, U.S. federal disaster funds, and funds to bolster the enforcement along the U.S.-Mexico border to slow the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. Okay, so there's 3 different issues going on right there. Again, we've spent billions of dollars to develop a vaccine for COVID. Then we had to develop boosters for that vaccine. Now now he's going to be requesting more money for a new vaccine that's necessary that works. If I didn't know any better, I would say that Biden and everybody that pushes this vaccine has stock in all of these vaccine manufacturers, and they're doing this just so they can make more of a profit. Not only for the control that these mandates, these restrictions, these lockdowns give them, but they're getting rich off of it as well, or I should say richer. In 2022, the Biden administration requested $9.25 billion to fight the virus, but congressional lawmakers refused the request. The Associated Press said officials are expecting an updated COVID-19 vaccination containing one version of the Omicron strain XBB.1.5. The new vaccine is a change from today's combination shots, which mix the original virus strain with last year's most common Omicron variants. As coronavirus continues to mutate, there will always be a need to update vaccines. So, again, they're telling you right there, the vaccine part of this is never going to stop. Next month, people will begin to receive the annual fall COVID-19 shot as Pfizer, Moderna, and Novavax are working on doses of the XBB update. Still, the Food and Drug Administration will need to sign off on each vaccine, and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention must issue recommendations for their use. The new booster program would come nearly a year after Biden declared the COVID-19 pandemic over in September 2022, though he said we're still doing a lot of work on it. All right, so I'm going to be honest, folks. I thought there was a chance that they might try to push the vaccine again this year. They might try to do light lockdowns, something like that. But I thought it was like maybe a 30% chance, something like that, 30-40% chance. After reading that and after seeing multiple articles about the new variants, there are certain institutions and agencies around the country that have already started reinstating mask mandates. I don't have a list of specifically which agencies and institutions it is, but there are some. I'm going to do some research on that, but there are some that are reinstating mask mandates. There are agencies that are institutions, businesses, what have you, that are already talking about the need to have your jabs updated, apparently. So here we go again, folks. We're going into another COVID season where they're going to be pushing all of the same crap. This is starting out just like it did in 2019. And I thought there was a chance that they might do this, but I was also thinking they ended the pandemic. So many people have raised hell about what we went through, what the government and politicians put everybody through, that surely America won't fall for this again. But I'm not so sure now. I think, based on conversations I've had with people I work with people online, everybody's thinking new lockdowns are coming. The WHO and the CDC are already working on restriction guidelines, from what I can gather from the information I've been able to gather. They're already working on restriction guidelines, mandates. They're already planning out how they're going to do all of this. And just like last time, that I'm pretty sure what's going to happen is, last time they said, well, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do this, we're not going to lock everybody down, we're not going to have vaccine passports, we're not going to have this, and we're not going to do that. But then, as time went on, they did everything that they said they weren't going to do. You're not going to lose your job, you're not going to get fired, what have you. And then, voila, people started getting fired. People started getting laid off because they didn't want to take the jab. The military, people that didn't want to take the vaccine were kicked out of the military. I think we're going to see an almost exact copy of what happened before happen again. And while I would like to say that surely everybody has learned a lesson from uh, the past 3 years. I can't with confidence say that it's not going to happen. People will stand up against it. I think due to how quickly, how easily, and how widespread the submission was to our government the first time around is going to happen probably easier this time, despite all of the people that claim that they're going to stand up against it. So, again, revising my statement, I'm changing it from maybe it will happen. I think it will. I think it's going to happen, and it's going to be very similar to 2019, 2020, 2021. That being said, I was watching a video by somebody else who was talking about this, and they made a very interesting comparison that I hadn't thought of. I had talked about how things happening were very reminiscent of the lead up to World War II. And they made that connection, but they made it in a way that I hadn't quite made it. They added in an element that I hadn't even thought of. Uh, Shout out to Economic Ninja for the video, because he's the one that made this connection and said it outright, and really got me to thinking about it. Back in 1918, we had the Spanish flu outbreak. And the more I've dug into the Spanish flu, I've heard stories, but the more I've actually dug into the history of the Spanish flu, the more disturbing it is, because it was a worldwide pandemic, killed millions of people. But I've actually seen photos from that era, and there were people walking around with signs around their neck saying, "Wear a mask or get arrested." And it really struck me how similar that was to COVID. And then I watched the video from Economic Ninja, and he made this connection. It's like okay, in 1918, you had the Spanish flu outbreak. Millions of people around the world were dying. It was really bad here in the United States. And then right after the flu outbreak in the 20s, we had what they called the Roaring 20s, a boom cycle. Everything was really booming and on fire, and the economy was doing so great. And what happened right after COVID this year? And actually the past year and a half, 2 years, we had our COVID, locked the economy down. Lots of people died. The economy really suffered. But then, as we were coming out of the pandemic, we went into a boom cycle, right? Everybody was saying, or at least people that were aware of what was going on were talking about how this, the stock market keeps going up and up and up, but there's no grounds for it, because all of this different stuff, we've got high inflation, we've got layoffs happening, we've got automation, we've got supply chain shortages. All of these things that should be dragging our economy down were going on, yet the stock market was on what seemed like a never-ending rally, just like the 20s. And what happens after the 20s? Here come the 30s. And what happens in the 30s? The Great Depression. Uh, and here we are. They're talking about fighting inflation for years now, for a couple of years now, and they're still hiking interest rates, And the Jerome Powell is still saying they're going to move more cautiously, but he still thinks there may be need to raise rates more. He's not willing to say it's time to start cutting. Again, thanks to Economic Ninja, just like the 20s, We came out of a pandemic. We went into a boom, a never ending boom, it seems like. And think also of the fact that all of us with any sense know that we're in a recession right now. Anybody that uses common sense understands how inflation and layoffs affect the economy. We understand that we're in a recession, even though it doesn't seem like it. While Biden and his ilk uh, say that we're not in a recession, we're changing the definition of a recession. And what we're in right now doesn't meet the definition of a recession. That's exactly what we're in, but yet the economy, the stock market, is still going up and up and up. Again, refer back to that uh, that parallel in the 20s. What happened in the 30s? Everything came crashing down. The Great Depression. I'm I'm telling you, I'm almost positive that's the way it's going to happen now. Uh, I've been saying it for a while now that we're in a recession now. We're not going into one. We've been in one for a while. And I've even heard one economist call it, because it doesn't fit the textbook definition of a recession, because we've got uh, strong job numbers, the stock market keeps going up, despite the fact that inflation is up, the value of the dollar is down, uh, lots of people are getting laid off. He's calling it certain sectors are doing well, while other sectors are doing poorly, and then they'll swap around. The ones that were doing well will start doing poorly, while the ones that were poor are going to start doing better. He's calling it what the term he came up with is a rolling recession. But he's saying we're in a recession now. That's what I've been saying all along. And this recession is going to, just in the 20s and 30s, it's going to lead into a depression, another Great Depression, as I've been saying. Uh, but I just didn't make the connection, and it's so obvious when I look at it. I just didn't make the connection between the Spanish flu, the Roaring 20s, and then the Great Depression of the 30s, which all led into World War II. Uh, that basically connected World War One flowing right into World War II. And again, I think it's my belief, and I could be completely wrong, but I don't believe I am, that we're following the exact same steps now. And as I've said in some of my videos, we're already in a cold World War III. This is going to lead us into a hot war, a hot world war, where we're actually fighting. There's already tensions with China. There's tensions with Russia because of us having a proxy war through Ukraine. Um, China has been doing drills around Taiwan and even invaded Taiwan airspace with drones, attack drones. Meanwhile, Australia, the United States, and the Philippine militaries are conducting drills right now for retaking islands. Understand what that means. We are preparing for war. Australia, the United States, and the Philippines are doing a joint drill exercise on how to retake an island that has been invaded by an enemy force. That can play into one of two scenarios. Either it's a possible scenario for Taiwan, or it's a possible scenario for China invading the Philippines. Which, if you look back at World War II, Japan invaded the Philippines. So it's not that it's not that big of a stretch to imagine that if we get into a war with China, they're going to try to invade the Taiwan, and they could potentially try to invade the Philippines, because a lot of the waters surrounding the Philippines are in dispute with China. The South China Sea, there's a lot of dispute over that, a lot of tension over that, with uh, Chinese ships invading waters that are claimed by both Philippines and by Australia. So we're already seeing parallels in the global powers aligning with one another. Think back to World War II, the Allies and the Axis. We're seeing a modern version of that now. You're seeing China, Russia, and with the BRICS nations, which I'm pretty sure they're all going to join together, you know. And then on the other hand, you've got Australia, Philippines, United States, Britain, Canada, uh, Japan. We're seeing not the same lines, but similar lines being formed. Uh, the United States has had joint meetings with Japan and South Korea to strengthen their ties, which is something that has never happened before. I mean, we've had meetings with Japan, we've had meetings with South Korea, but our officials have never had a meeting of Japan and South Korea at the exact same time. Now you're seeing drills with Australia, the United States, and the Philippines. If you can't see World War is coming or is already here, but the world is preparing for an active global war, you're not looking at the pieces. You're not seeing the pieces on the table. This is a great big chessboard we're seeing here. We're seeing all of these pieces move around. And if you can't see what's going on, it's because you don't understand the positioning of these pieces. All you have to do is look at what happened again 1918, the Roaring 20s, the Great Depression, leading into World War II. We're seeing the same thing happen again. There's some differences, there's a lot of similarities. And in fact, one YouTuber says a lot that history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. That's a common saying going around here now. And I have to agree with it. It's not exactly the same, but there are so many similarities. If you're aware, pay attention, and look at history, you see this stuff coming. And I'm sitting out here right now making this video, and I'm looking at raised beds around my yard. And I can't help but think that before we know it, people are going to be heavily dependent on these raised beds that are in their yards, any livestock that are in their yards. I'm I'm notorious for getting a very strong sense of nostalgia at times, even for places that I haven't been, times that I haven't lived in. I think because I can see similarities and I can have a good, clear understanding of what life was like at certain times. And right now, folks, what I am seeing is a very close copy of the time leading up to the Great Depression and World War III or World War II. Uh, and we're going to see more and more similarities like this. This is the route we're going. And the the crappy part of all of this is that we have no control over it. You and I, as individuals, we have no control over it. There's nothing we can do to stop this. Uh, sure, everybody's talking about elections, and nobody you could vote in right now, I don't care who it is. Even if Trump got reelected, the people that are big supporters of him, even if Trump did win the 2024 election, he can't stop it. It's too late. All the pieces are in motion now. And it would be like one person trying to stop a tidal wave. It's just not going to happen. The only thing that we can do is prepare. Prep as best you can. Work on building your own self-reliance and self-sufficiency through raising your own food, growing your own food, having livestock, building networks with people that can do things that you can't, where you can trade skills, you can trade resources, you can assist one another. This lone wolf scenario is a romanticized idea from movies and books that will not work in reality. But again, I digress. I'm running off on a tangent there. This is what I see coming, folks, and I've seen it coming before, like I said. But I've seen all these individual things, and I never, I knew the pandemic can lead to a depression, and that can lead to a world war. But I don't know. As clear as I saw it, it just cemented the fact that it's that's what's happening now. When I heard Economic Ninja's video, when I watched it, and he laid it out so simply, uh, it took all of these things that were rolling around in my mind that were loosely connected, and it was like, wow, I knew they were connected. I knew they could lead to one another like dominoes, but my certainty just wasn't quite there yet. Unfortunately, now it is. I'm positive this is what's going to happen. I hope to God I'm wrong, um, but I don't think I am. And if I am wrong, I'll be happy to come back and say, look, I got it wrong. But I don't think I am. I've been talking with people at my job, and it's come up in random conversations. That's the thing about it. We'd be talking about one thing, and all of a sudden, people would be talking about lockdowns coming, people getting laid off from their jobs, new vaccinations. I'm seeing it in chatter all over YouTube, all over social media. It's coming, folks. I thought maybe it would before. I'm certain it is now. Uh, because they wouldn't be talking about this stuff, requesting this money, if they didn't already have the wheels in motion. That's one thing about it. One reason why I always gather information from various sources. I go to CNN, I go to Fox, I go to some of these obscure channels. While you can't trust any one news source 100%, you can get bits and pieces everywhere because they always telegraph their moves. If you're observant enough and pay enough attention, they will tell you what's coming, what they're about to do. And the signs I'm seeing, lockdowns are coming. More forced vaccinations are coming. Be prepared to lose your job for not taking this new vaccine. They're going to roll out the vaccine cards again. Uh, Jobs are going to require you to get vaccinated or lose your job. That all of that stuff is going to be coming back. I'm already seeing more and more people in stores wearing masks. I'm already seeing it. I've seen the uptick just in the past 2 weeks. And all of this over 10,000 new cases of COVID with maybe 9 or 10 of a new highly mutated strain. It's already coming, folks. The wheels are in motion. They're going to do this regardless of what you think or what you want. We we just have to get ready. So use the last pandemic as a template for your preps. Reanalyze how that pandemic affected and impacted your life, the ways it hurt you, the ways it didn't affect you, and you have a good template for how to prepare for this next one. But I'm going to tell you this also. Even if you weren't affected by the previous one, you might be affected by this one. So, if there were areas that, if there were ways that it didn't hurt you, didn't impact you, be prepared for it to hit you this time. All right, that's all I've got. This is already turning into a long rant, and I don't want it to be that. But I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't, and maybe I won't get a strike for this. Maybe I won't get penalized by YouTube for this. But like Economic Ninja said, he thought he was the only one going to be talking about it. But when he made that connection, and I heard that, I knew I had to get on here and I had to share the same message. Uh, because I see it too. Now I see it clearly now, in ways that I didn't a week ago. So shout out to him for that. But yeah, keep prepping. Get ready, folks. It's coming. As always, stay safe. Take care of yourselves, your families. Keep prepping. And until next time, folks, I'll catch you later.